Think of that person. The one who can get under your skin like no one else. The one whose words, whose very presence, can ignite a fire of irritation inside you. You leave the interaction feeling drained, confused, and a little bit wronged. And you ask yourself, why do they affect me so much? What if I told you that intense, visceral reaction has almost nothing to do with them? What if I told you it has everything to do with a hidden, powerful mechanism inside of you? What if they are simply an unwilling movie screen, and you are the projector? This is the essence of one of Carl Jung's most powerful and practical teachings, the concept of projection. He understood that our unconscious mind, the vast, dark theater that holds our shadow, is constantly playing its own films, and it uses the people in our lives to screen them. Your strong judgments, your intense irritations, your emotional triggers, they are not random. They are a map leading directly back to the most disowned parts of your own psyche. The stronger the reaction, the bigger the treasure. Today, we move from being the audience of this chaotic film to becoming the director. We will learn the language of our own projections, and in doing so, we will begin to reclaim the immense psychic energy that has been tangled up in everyone else. To understand this powerful mechanism, let's use a simple analogy. Imagine that your unconscious mind, everything you have exiled into your shadow, is like a film reel. A reel filled with the unedited, raw footage of your soul. Your conscious mind, your ego, is the projector. And the people in your life, especially the ones who evoke a strong emotional reaction from you, become the unwilling movie screens. When you meet someone who has a certain hook, a quality or a behavior that resonates with something on your hidden film reel, the projector clicks on, and it begins to play your movie all over their face. In that moment, you are no longer seeing them. You are watching your own inner film. You are reacting to a story that has been living inside of you, unseen, for a very long time. So why do we do this? Why does the psyche use this strange, confusing mechanism? It is a brilliant, if flawed, defense mechanism of the ego. The ego's primary job is to protect your conscious sense of self. And it is far easier, far less painful to see a quality you dislike in someone else than it is to face the fact that this same quality lives inside of you. It is easier for Chloe to judge her colleague Sarah as arrogant than it is for her to confront her own exiled ambition and the grief she feels for having suppressed it. Projection allows the ego to say, "The problem isn't in here, it's out there." But here is the crucial part. You do not have just one film reel. In the vast library of your unconscious, there are two primary reels that you project most often. The first is the reel we are most familiar with. It is the film of your dark shadow. This reel contains all the qualities you were taught were bad or unacceptable. Your anger, your selfishness, your laziness, your neediness. And when you project this film, the experience you have is one of irritation, judgment, and intense dislike. Let's create a new story. Let's imagine Sarah. Sarah is a 40-year-old high school teacher. She is a classic good person, beloved by her students, admired by her colleagues. She is the one who always stays late to help, the one who volunteers for the difficult committees. But there is a new teacher in her department, a young man named Tom. And Sarah finds him insufferable. Tom leaves work at 3 p.m. on the dot every single day. When asked to take on an extra task, he has no problem saying with a calm smile, "No, I don't have the capacity for that right now."
He takes his full lunch break. He does not check his email on weekends. And when Sarah sees this, she feels a fire of judgment rise within her. She thinks to herself, he's so lazy. He's not a team player. He doesn't care. Her irritation is so strong it feels righteous. It feels like the truth. But it is not the whole truth. It is a projection of her dark shadow. What is the exiled part of Sarah that she cannot see in herself? It is her own profound, desperate, unmet need for rest. It is her own longing to set a boundary. It is her own inner voice that is screaming to leave work on time, to say no, to protect her own energy. But her good teacher persona will not allow her to acknowledge this need. It is too selfish. It is too lazy. So, she projects it onto Tom. She is not angry at Tom. She is angry at Tom for being free in a way she does not allow herself to be. The intensity of her judgment is the exact measure of her own inner starvation. Her shadow is using Tom as a screen to play a film titled The Freedom I Denied Myself. This is the first and most common form of projection. It is the mechanism behind almost every intense, irrational dislike you have ever felt. The arrogant man is a screen for your disowned confidence. The needy friend is a screen for your own suppressed needs. The lazy colleague is a screen for your own desperate longing for rest. But this is not the only film your projector plays. There is another reel, a reel that is just as powerful but far more subtle. A reel whose projection feels not like irritation, but like worship. This is the film of your golden shadow, and it is the great, beautiful secret to understanding who you are meant to become.
But the psychic projector does not only play horror films, it also plays the most beautiful, breathtaking epics. This is the second great reel of film in your unconscious library, the film of your golden shadow. As we discussed, the golden shadow is the container for all the brilliant, powerful, and magnificent parts of yourself that you were also taught to exile. Your courage, your creativity, your leadership, your authentic voice. And just as you project your disowned darkness, you also project your disowned light. When you project the dark shadow, you feel irritation and judgment. When you project the golden shadow, you feel awe, fascination, and an almost painful sense of admiration. Let's return to Chloe, our nurse. She has a friend from her past, a woman named Maya. Years ago, Maya quit her safe corporate job to travel the world and become a photographer. Chloe follows Maya's life on social media with a rapt fascination. She sees Maya's stunning photos from remote corners of the globe. She reads Maya's poetic captions about freedom and following your soul's calling. And Chloe thinks to herself, she is so brave. She is so free. She is living a truly authentic life. Chloe puts Maya on a pedestal. She sees her as a kind of hero. What is happening here? Chloe believes her admiration is all about Maya. It is not. It is a projection of her own golden shadow. What is the exiled part of Chloe that she cannot see in herself? It is her own adventurous spirit. It is her own creative eye, the one that used to love painting. It is her own deep, desperate longing for freedom and a life less ordinary. Her soul is using Maya as a screen to play a film titled The Woman I Was Born to Be. The intense admiration she feels is the echo of her own potential. It is her golden shadow whispering, "Look, remember? This is us, too. This is the gold we buried. So you see, this single mechanism, projection, is the key to understanding both your greatest irritations and your deepest inspirations. It is the master tool for all shadow work. The people who trigger you are not your enemies. They are mirrors reflecting the dark parts of you that are begging for compassion. And the people you admire are not your superiors. They are mirrors reflecting the golden parts of you that are begging to be owned. This brings us to a critical, practical question. How do you know? How do you know when you're having an objective, rational reaction to someone's behavior and when you are simply watching your own movie? How can you tell the difference between discernment and projection? The psyche, in its wisdom, leaves clues. Here is a simple 3-point diagnostic test you can use. The first indicator is the emotional charge. Ask yourself, is the intensity of my emotional reaction proportionate to the actual event? If your colleague makes a minor mistake and you feel a flicker of annoyance, that is likely a proportionate response. But if your colleague makes that same minor mistake and you feel a surge of 10 out of 10 white-hot rage, that disproportionate emotional charge is a giant red flag. It is a sign that the small event has triggered a much larger, older story within you. It is a sign that your projector has just been switched on. The second indicator is the all-or-nothing label. Listen to the language you use, either in your own mind or when talking to others. Are you using absolute black and white terms? He is always so selfish. She is the most arrogant person I have ever met. He never listens. This kind of rigid, all-or-nothing labeling is almost always a sign of a projection. A projection flattens a complex human being into a two-dimensional character in your inner film. When you are seeing clearly, you can acknowledge nuance. He can be selfish sometimes, but he also has a generous side. When you are projecting, you can only see the role you have cast them in. And the third indicator is the repetitive pattern. Is this the 5th time in your life you have had a boss who is an incompetent tyrant? Is this the 3rd relationship in a row where your partner becomes emotionally unavailable? Do you find that wherever you go, you are always surrounded by needy people? If you are encountering the same character with the same unbearable flaw over and over again, but with a different face, there is a high probability that the common denominator is not them. It is you. It is your projector playing the same familiar, painful film on a loop, hoping that one day you will finally stop looking at the screen and turn around to look at the film reel itself. The emotional charge, the all-or-nothing label, the repetitive pattern. These are not proofs, but they are powerful invitations. Invitations to pause, to get curious, and to ask the great question of all shadow work. What part of me is being reflected back to me in this moment?
But now we must address the most important and perhaps most difficult question that arises from this work. The question that your inner critic is almost certainly screaming at you right now. So if it's all my projection, does that mean their bad behavior is okay? Does it mean I have to excuse the fact that they are arrogant or lazy or unkind? Does this mean it's all my fault? Let me be absolutely clear. No. Recognizing your projection is not an excuse for someone else's poor behavior. Let me say that again. Recognizing your projection is not an excuse for someone else's poor behavior. If someone is genuinely acting in a harmful or disrespectful way, your feelings about that are valid. The work of recognizing your projection is not about them. It is about you. The goal is not to change them. The goal is not to absolve them. The goal is to reclaim the enormous amount of your own psychic energy that has become tangled up in them. As long as you believe that your intense emotional reaction is 100% about them, you are powerless. You are a victim. You are waiting for them to change in order for you to feel better. And you may be waiting for a very long time. The moment you recognize even a small part of your own projection in the dynamic, you take your power back. You move from being a powerless victim to a conscious observer. You are no longer hooked. The film is no longer running on autopilot. You have your hand on the projector. Let's go back to Sarah, the teacher who was triggered by her lazy colleague Tom. After doing this work, Sarah has an insight. She realizes her intense irritation isn't just about Tom. It is about her own exiled longing for rest. Does this mean Tom's behavior is suddenly perfect? No. Perhaps he genuinely could be more of a team player. But that is his work, not hers. What changes for Sarah is this. Her 10 out of 10 rage becomes a 2 out of 10 annoyance. She has reclaimed the 8 points of energy that were her own story. She is no longer losing her own precious life force over Tom's work habits. She is free. That is the power of this work. So how do we begin this process of reclamation? How do we consciously take back the energy we have projected onto the world? It begins with a simple, private, and profoundly transformative practice. A practice I call Find the 1%. The goal of insight is not enough. The real work is an integration. It is about consciously bringing a tiny piece of that exiled part of you back home. Here's how it works. The next time you identify a strong projection, a powerful judgment you have about someone else, take out your journal. Let's say you have just had an interaction with someone you judged as intensely arrogant. Step 1, write down the quality, the label. Arrogance. Step 2, acknowledge the projection. You can write, I recognize that my intense reaction to their arrogance is likely a projection from my shadow. This simple act of naming it creates a space of conscious awareness. Step 3, ask the game-changing question. This is where the alchemy happens. You must ask your own soul this question with radical honesty. Where in my own life do I need to own just 1% of healthy arrogance? And what is healthy arrogance? It is self-confidence. It is the willingness to take up space. It is the courage to own your own brilliance. The very qualities that your good person persona was taught to exile into the shadow. Let's take another example. You are triggered by a friend who you perceive as being incredibly selfish. You do the practice. You write down the quality, selfishness. You acknowledge the projection, and then you ask the question, where in my life do I need to own just 1% of healthy selfishness? And what is healthy selfishness? It is the ability to prioritize your own needs. It is the courage to say no. It is the wisdom to fill your own cup first. The very skills your people-pleasing persona is terrified of. Do you see the magic here? Your projections are a perfect diagnostic tool. They point with laser-like precision to the exact quality your soul is longing to integrate, the quality you need to reclaim in order to become more whole. The trigger is not a curse. It is a curriculum. It is your own personalized syllabus for your own evolution. And every person who triggers you is an unwitting teacher pointing you back to the lesson you need to learn next. The work is not to become arrogant or selfish. The work is to recognize that beneath the painful charge of your projection lies a piece of your own exiled gold, a piece of the golden shadow begging to be seen. And the practice of finding the 1% is how you begin to excavate it. It is how you take your power back, one tiny glittering shard at a time.
Today, we have pulled back the curtain on one of the psyche's most powerful and misunderstood mechanisms. We have learned to see the world not just as a collection of people and events, but as a grand, interactive movie screen for our own inner world. We have learned that our intense reactions to others are rarely about them. They are projections, the film reel of our own exiled parts, both dark and golden, playing out on the unwilling screen of another person. The people who irritate you most intensely are mirroring the disowned parts of your dark shadow. And the people you admire with a painful longing are mirroring the forgotten magnificence of your golden shadow. This insight changes everything. It is the beginning of the end of victimhood. You are no longer a passive ship tossed on the stormy seas of other people's behaviors. You are the lighthouse keeper. You can see the light of your own projector, and you can begin to understand its source. As Carl Jung taught, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your triggers are not a curse. They are your curriculum. We have also learned that recognizing your projection does not mean excusing bad behavior. It is an act of radical self-responsibility. It is the courageous choice to stop trying to change the screen and to instead turn your attention to the film reel itself, to reclaim the psychic energy that has been hooked into others. And we have a gentle, powerful first step to begin this reclamation: the practice of finding the 1%, a way to consciously and safely integrate a tiny shard of your exiled self, to take a piece of that projected arrogance and alchemize it into healthy self-confidence, to take a piece of that projected selfishness and transform it into sacred self-care. This is not easy work. It requires the curiosity of a scientist and the compassion of a saint for yourself. It is a practice of turning your judgment of the world into a deep, loving inquiry of your own soul. Recognizing your projections is the work of the conscious mind. It is an act of intellectual and emotional insight. But often, long before your mind has a chance to analyze the situation, another, older, wiser intelligence has already registered the truth: your body. Think about it. When you are triggered, where do you feel it first? Is it a logical thought? Or is it a clench in your jaw, a knot in your stomach, a flush of heat to your face? Your body is the first responder. It is the keeper of your deepest truths, and it is constantly sending you messages, if you are willing to listen. What is the wisdom of your body? How can you learn to decode its somatic language and use it as your most accurate and immediate boundary detection system? That is the deep, embodied wisdom we will explore in our next conversation. For this week, your invitation is to become the scientist of your own soul. Do not try to stop your judgments or your triggers. Simply observe them with a new curiosity. Choose one strong projection you notice and practice the gentle alchemy of finding the 1%. To commit to this new way of seeing, I invite you to join a community of fellow observers. Share what you discovered this week in the comments below, using this powerful phrase: "My projection showed me my own need for rest, my own suppressed confidence, my own longing for freedom."
By sharing your insight, you make it real, and you light the way for others who are just learning to read their own sacred maps. Thank you for your courage. The film is changing.